Shalom. I am Rabbi Davidovich, speaking on behalf of the webyeshiva.org, speaking to you from Efrat, Israel. I'm speaking to you on a day which is the beginning of the 3 sad weeks. This is the day of Shiva Asar Tammuz, the 17th day of Tammuz. This is a day that we fast, and this is the day that begins the 3-week period leading to Tisha B, the destruction of our holy temples in Jerusalem, over 2,000 years ago. And the question we must ask ourselves is, why are we fasting? And are we mourning based on something that only happened in the past? Or are we mourning something that we're not doing now and should be doing? The Beis Hamikdash was the place where God chose to bring his presence before the world, and specifically for the Jewish people. It was there that the great light of God shone forth from the Beis Hamikdash, from the Holy Temple, to the rest of the world. The temples were destroyed. The first temple was destroyed in the year 586 of the Common Era, and it was destroyed due to major infractions of Torah law and moral law. There were killing, other kinds of things where people just were disregarding the law, and that brought about the demise of the first Beis Hamikdash by the Babylonians. The second one was destroyed by the Romans in the year 70. And the reason for that gives us a message as to what we are doing today. The second Beis Hamikdash was at a time when people were studying Torah, were performing all of God's commandments, were living a good life, a moral life, except in one major respect. The Gemara tells us that the second Beis Hamikdash was destroyed by sinas chinam, baseless hatred, hating for no reason. We know that God has created a world and has created a Jewish people to bring love to the world. The whole basis of the Torah, the whole basis for which God gave the Jewish people the Torah and chose us to be a chosen people, was so that he could build, through the Torah and through the Jewish people, a holy temple in Jerusalem, a Beis Hamikdash, which would then shed its light and message on the whole world, a message of love. Rabbi Akiva says that V'ahavta l'reacha kamocha, loving your neighbor as yourself, is a fundamental principle of the Torah. And this was violated, leading to the destruction of the second Beis Hamikdash. Rav Yaakov Weinberg, of blessed memory, asked the question as to why we're fasting on this day. And he said that everybody's fasting probably because of something that happened 2,000 years ago. But he says, no, we are fasting because of what is happening now. And the reason is as follows. He quotes the Gemara, and the Gemara says, Kol mi shelo nivne b'yamav, shelo nivne beis hamikdash b'yamav, ki'ilu nechrav b'yamav. Whoever doesn't rebuild the holy temple in his day is like he's destroying it in our lifetime. And he goes on further to say, very deeply, that it isn't, he says, our actions prevent it from being built. But he says what prevents it really from being built is by our doing the same actions that if it were existent, it would be destroyed again. In other words, the power is in our hands to rebuild the Beis Hamikdash. The power of avoiding the hatred between people that led to the first destruction, the love of your fellow man will serve as a building block to the Beis Hamikdash. The Netivot Shalom points out that when we cry over the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash, the cry of a Jew is not a cry of despair. In fact, he tells us, brings a story of Jeremiah the prophet coming into contact with Plato, the philosopher, who saw him mourning and asked, "Why are you mourning of something that happened so many years ago? It's gone, it can't be brought back again." And he said, "I really can't explain because you won't understand." And what he was saying, the reason he wouldn't understand is, except for the Jewish people, anybody else who doesn't have the total belief in God, who doesn't really believe that God controls everything, would see a bad thing happen and would immediately go into despair. The Jewish people, the cry of a Jew is the cry of hope. And that is illustrated by the story of Moses when he was put into the little basket on the Nile River, and the princess of Pharaoh saw him and said, "This is the cry of a Jewish baby." How would she know it's the cry of a Jewish baby? At that same time, Pharaoh was trying to destroy any possible threat to his kingdom, and his astrologers said that on that particular day there would be a male, they didn't know if it would be Jewish or Egyptian or whatever, who would destroy his kingdom. So he ordered all the babies, all newborn babies on that day to be thrown into the Nile. So there was a lot of crying, but she recognized this cry as the cry of a Jewish baby. The reason was because it's a cry of hope. When we cry of our hope that God will rebuild the Beis Hamikdash. And this can only be done by our actions. We have to change the baseless hatred to baseless love. Love every single Jew, every single human being, because everybody has a holy soul. That is our job to do during these 3 weeks. The 3 weeks are sort of like a seed being planted in the ground. It first has to completely be destroyed before growth can begin. Tisha B is the day after the complete destruction when the growth begins again. The growth begins, and from the afternoon of Tisha B, we already start looking forward to the new year, to being closer to having a new relationship with God and with our fellow man. And I bless us all that on this fast day and during this 3-week period, it'll be a meaningful period where we do self-awareness of what we're doing. Ask ourselves, are we doing those things that God wants us to do? Or are we serving only ourselves instead of serving God? Thank you for listening on behalf of the webyeshiva.org. I wish everybody who is still in the process of fasting a meaningful fast, and I wish everybody a Shabbat Shalom.